Seamless acceptance is here, and mailers all over the country are working to successfully comply with its requirements. We're here to tell you their stories. Welcome to Seamless Success, where we guide you to successful seamless acceptance strategies. Tune in as Jeff People sits down with successful mailers, highlighting their colorful stories to illustrate their winning strategies. Listen to their valuable insights. Discover the right tools and processes they used. Understand best practices and grow your seamless success. Here is your host, Jeff Peoples.
Welcome, Nate Tripp. I have admired your work in simplifying systems for many, many years, and I'm so excited that you've been working in the mailing industry, making it so some very complex things become much easier, and specifically helping us with seamless acceptance and undocumented mail. And Nate, I'd love you to tell me a little bit more about what you've been doing and why you think that you've got some great solutions for simplifying seamless acceptance and especially undocumented mail.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's very good to be with you. And similarly, I am a huge admirer of you and have really enjoyed our association. I remember, how long ago was it, Jeff?
Like 6 years ago, we were doing
7 years ago.
So we were doing the whole process of simplifying your software production. So Nate's been in the business of helping software companies simplify their process with a very great way to understand what the client is really reaching for, what they really want, what they really need, and then getting the whole development team in there. And you guys were training our whole development team. We brought out something like 12 developers, a whole team of people, and you guys were training us. And now you're working with us on some very important projects related to seamless acceptance. So welcome.
Of course, what you're referring to is the brainchild of my younger brother, Richard, who is your chief of product. But Richard, his methodology, the POV method for SaaS software development. It's a wonderful way to approach anything that involves iterating on a product, innovating. It's the best in class process for product innovation. And so I love it. I've used it in many different applications, many different industries. You know, one of my gifts is the ability to kind of understand complexity, grasp it, like work my way through there's two simples, right? There's the simple when you first look at something, you're like, yeah, how hard could it be, right? And then you start wading into the sea of complexity that you can't see until you really start getting into it. And I'm one of those guys who has the patience to kind of work through it and understand it and get my arms around it and get to where you can climb out on the other side and have appreciation for some of the challenges that exist in it. And then that gives you the ability to create a sense of simplicity that respects the actual complexity that exists in different systems. And that is certainly the case in the seamless acceptance arena. And in fact, in streamlined mail acceptance in general, but the biggest pole in that tent, the biggest challenge in that overarching program is seamless acceptance. You know, that has really changed the world for mail service providers and presented them with unique challenges, but also opportunities for success, opportunities to improve their game, to become successful. And I love that you're doing this podcast that's all about how to succeed within a world where the reality is seamless acceptance.
Yeah, and one of the things I've seen and admired is to take something that's very, very complex and make it as simple as you can without going too far. If you go
but no simpler.
Far, but no simpler. Exactly.
That's a great quote from Albert Einstein.
Right.
Things should be as simple as they can, but no simpler.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, the United States Postal Service certainly has some very complex rules, regulations, because there's thousands of ways to mail the same thing. And so you have to understand all the complexity, all the different entry points, all the different stakeholders involved with doing a mailing. It is a sophisticated, complex system. And to automate that, you have to pull in many, many points of view. And you have to look at how do we simplify this so that our clients and users can make it so they get their job done. Because we've done a lot of surveys with our clients, and we found that what they really want to do is focus on what's important to them. And by making it so that they can focus on what's important to them, by not focusing on all of the details behind the software development, they can give a better service for their clients. So
absolutely. And this is an interesting point you bring up. There's also complexity in the variety of in your customer base. So, as we've interviewed different clients and understood, like, what's the nature of the male owner side of your business? What happens within your organization? Do you use comminglers? How complex is who you send mail to? All of these things influence the degree of risk that a client has of getting an assessment from seamless acceptance. We've had some clients who have a super stable, super normalized, it's like very similar things going on at very similar iterations to very similar groups. And they just really haven't had an issue. We have other groups that have greater complexity, or groups that want to win more business that introduce layers of complexity in their business that make them more susceptible to an undocumented mail assessment. And we also have, those who even in those arenas have got their stuff locked up pretty tight, but they're finding the software solution that we're bringing to market very useful in documenting those things that they know about, but where they're, how do I actually hold on to that? How do I produce that for the post office? That's that known undocumented log. And so, I'm very excited about kind of how this tool is approaching it, both from the perspective of a newer client who's coming into Seamless and figuring it out, and also somebody who's kind of got it figured out but finds value in it from that perspective.
So one of the things I've been seeing, I want to know if this is consistent with your research, is that a lot of mail service providers are having challenges with employees. There's unemployment benefits. There's just divergence with the pandemic all last year. Just a lot of challenges, and they're looking at more and more for automation. But one of the challenges with automation is you've got somebody's knowledge. And how do you extract all the knowledge and put it into a piece of software? What's your process for that?
So this is a great point. That's a great question. So we've, as we've interviewed many companies, and we've been blessed to have quite a few companies come in and work through our beta release with our application, and they've given us great feedback, and we've learned a lot from them. We've gone into, and what we find is in many of these companies, there is one or two or three people who kind of have pioneered in brilliant, innovative ways, processes and systems and multi-step kind of complex processes that help them to manage, keep records of, any barcode that goes out the door. I need to have some, if I potentially could get assessed that, I need to have some way of keeping a record that I can do research on and understand that. And so you have people who have rather complex systems that involve time and energy and effort to manage, and they're very customized to many different organizations. And our question is, are there broad stroke similarities between those? Like, there are some universal truths in this process. One is, if any process produces a barcode that could be undocumented, and that undocumented assessment could come back to my organization, then I must have some kind of record that helps me to know what the source of that document was, along with, some additional attributes to that assessment. And specifically, what would I want to know about that barcode if it did get undocumented? I would want to know anything about the date that the postage was paid. If I'm being undocumented, but I did pay it, I would want to know that. I would want to know anything relative to the job that produced that, whether it came from a mail.dat or any other system. I would want to know job information. I would want to know who the mail owner of that piece is. If I used a commingler, I would want to know that. And if I did use it, I would want to know the date it was sent to the commingler. And so what we're doing is getting very clear on what are the basic attributes that would need to be recorded. And for every barcode that could be identified as undocumented, those are the attributes that we would want to have a record of that we could query in the event of any kind of an assessment, and be able to go back and say, okay, now what do we need to do? And so that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Another thing that I've been seeing, and I want to see what your thoughts are on, is that different people working on these projects, and that it's really valuable to have one location that you can go into no matter what shift you're working on, that you don't have to find out a spreadsheet or a database. It's all in one SaaS solution, and it's simple. And you have a record independent of whether that employee stayed or changed, because turnover is an issue. And also different shifts are issues. And it's, as long as it's simple to put some data into the system, you have it so that that work can be shared amongst many people. Would you say that that's true with all the people you interviewed?
In fact, let me answer that question, but also fully answer the actual question. I didn't actually really answer it. The issue was, people and employment and keeping it going, right? We've talked to a number of folks who've kind of shared with us, I'm here for another 3 or 4 years and I'm gone. So, they need to figure this out so I can hand this off to somebody else. And I've heard those stories. And, I think the key to being successful, it's something that on the Postal Service has become highly automated, is to become highly process automated on our side, on the MSP side, and mitigate the risk of, wow, I don't have somebody with that know-how, or, I'm going to have a challenge continuing this if I lose this person, or if that person got sick or something, I'm like relying on this one person. That is certainly an issue. The other thing is, the thing I love about our tool is, instead of one person keeping a bunch of spreadsheets on like a shared drive, are you in there, am I in there, what work did you do, we now have a cloud-based system, a tool that we can have multiple people in, all looking at each other's work, working in the same side and seeing things as they're happening at the same time. And so we can have an admin and we can have users within an organization that can work across shift work. If something happens where I need to document something relative to a known undocumented issue, I can do it. I can save an artifact that underscores that, with like maybe a CSV that has the barcodes or whatever. I have a sense of I'm in progress documenting this known undocumented thing. And then once I have all of the data elements necessary, I can call it complete. And then I can also, once I develop quite a log of many entries of known undocumented, I can search that log using any criteria from the barcode. So it could be the STID. It's like, show me every log entry that's this STID. Show me every log entry that's this MID. Every log entry where it's this barcode, this serial number. I can go down to just 20 digits. I can also say every zip code, be it 5, 9, or 11 digits. I can search any log entry and it will return every log entry I created using that criteria. So we're excited that that side of the tool will become its own data source that can be used for further resource, because we know that in MSPs, oftentimes people were like, whoa, what happened 6 months ago? Why are we getting this assessment? Now you got this record and it's in one place and you can get to it from any device that can access the internet.
Yeah, I've heard it's getting much better, but a lot of people were complaining that the scans were coming, the Postal Service were scanning it and delivering the mail beyond the window, and so therefore it was considered undocumented. And obviously that's the Postal Service's trouble, but what do you do? And if you don't have all that data, you're always fighting. And who wants to be fighting with the Postal Service? Or
exactly, we had people, they were trying to keep this like in a spreadsheet, trying to remember it, a sticky note on the desk saying, oh yeah, keep track of this thing. And I was like, no. Like, what if that person wins the lottery and they're not here tomorrow? Have a system to document all this. You also mentioned that issue of it's interesting when you're making a known undocumented entry. 685 gives you these 13 possible criteria to select from that are the reason that known undocumented. One of them is not, oh, the Postal Service failed to scan the information on time, therefore there's a disconnect. So we built into the tool the ability to select other and then add that in as a reason. It's like there are possible reasons for undocumented mail that may not be listed there. So that was another cool thing.
Yeah, good. So could you talk a little bit about what you're doing next and integration of data? And
we're very excited about this. So, the V1 part of the tool, our first intent was to understand, what causes undocumented mail. And we kind of we understood there's three major categories, the two big ones and then one small one. The first, it's some kind of problem on the digital side, the electronic document, or it's a problem on the physical mail side. It's a mailing issue. There's a misalignment between those two, and a problem was either on one side or on the other, or it could be a combination of both. And then there's also a smaller issue with spoilage, piece spoilage, right? So those are kind of categories of problems. And then there are things within each of those categories that can trigger a problem. And then we drill a layer down into that, saying, okay, there's different causes that can cause that trigger to be pulled, which cause a problem in that category. So that's kind of, we built this 3-layer hierarchy to drill down into, okay, what is causing undocumented mail? And the reason we want to know these things is because oftentimes it might be something like, hey, in the MSP, there's a training issue, or there's a tool that's needed, or a settings issue, or something that's internal, or it may be something going on with a mail owner. I'm getting stuff from the mail owner. Why the heck am I getting all this undocumented? It'll point you to those things that are causing problems, right? It could be something on the post office side. And so it'll drive more functional communication within the business, between the business and the post office, maybe with the mail owner. And so, we created something that essentially gave this hierarchical logic that helps them work through it. And this is the brilliance of the POV method. We worked through our process of who wants something, what are they doing to get to it, what's their current reality, what are the biggest problems they have getting to it? And then we created these solutions that were oriented to that. One of the biggest problem statements was, I need something to help organize my efforts as I'm trying to respond to an assessment. Right now, I feel like I'm kind of flailing, I'm guessing, I'm just searching, and I'm spending non-value added time trying to get to to where I can respond to this. And so our goal was to present something that helps organize their efforts, right? Great. So we've got this thing, we've got 28 different possible cause combinations within these 3 categories with their triggers and causes, right? So and that's built. That's out there. People can use it to learn, hey, how can I be better at seamless? They can use the known undocumented side. That's exciting. We have clients that are in there now using that. What the team is focusing on now is, okay, I see markers in the data. Like when I do this, and let me pull up a note here. If I know that a commingler was used, that was submitted or not paid, that it was reversed, that it was canceled, I see statuses in the data, right? And those statuses point us to specific, like if I've got a big long list of undocumented barcodes from the post office, I can take those lists and I can match it up with data from like a mail.dat. I can look at the statuses of different jobs, and I can know, okay, what happened? I can propose, I can suggest. Imagine it's like a big board, and every one of those 28 cause combinations is a place on the board. What we're doing is looking at data and given the undocumented barcodes, going to the client and saying, okay, for this range of barcodes, your cause combination, the place on the board where you are at, is here. And for this one, it's here. And for these group, we're not sure, but we think it's here. And so instead of them having to go figure it out on their own and work through that and try and research on their own, we are coming up with ways to match mail quality data with data that we can use, window book tools like Postal Web Connect, Postal Web Net, which scrapes client data, mail.dat data, to be able to make those connections and propose that in the tool. And just today, I'll tell you one thing that's kind of exciting, a discussion with one of the guys on the team. Actually, it was Dave. Dave had a great idea. He was like, Nate, when the client, do we want them to resolve all of the seamless acceptance assessment barcodes, or just those that get them below the threshold? I was like, well, certainly the latter. We want to definitely do that. But then we also want them to understand the other ones, because that may drive internal process improvements. But what if we had something that was like a little thermometer, something that said, okay, here's how close you are to getting below your threshold. When I say resolved, I want to be clear. I don't mean like you don't have to pay the post office. In some instances, if it's like your EDOC failed to submit, you may owe the post office money, but having a clear resolution about that so you don't burn non-value added time trying to figure that out is super useful. So, that's valuable to the client. Like, what should I do? Tell me right now so I can do it and move on, right? And so Dave's idea was we can build automation in the tool that shows them how close they're getting to like having resolved these issues. I'm done now, I can move on. And so that was kind of excited. So this second phase is about data integration and using that to show them where they're at on the board and point them towards what they need to do to resolve whatever issue they have, so they can do that value added work of sending mail to clients and not responding to an assessment from the post office.
Hey, Nate, I know that we've been working together about 6 years, but I'm wondering, how many years have you been helping businesses solve their processes, make their processes more efficient?
That's a fascinating question. So, Jeff, I have always been an innovator. So I had 25 years in uniform in the military. I was an aviator in the military, but I was always that odd guy. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. I had a battalion commander when I was a lieutenant, and he pulled me up out of the platoon and he put me in as the supply officer for the whole battalion, which was 2 levels above where I should have been in my pay grade, right? And very quickly, he started seeing that my organization was performing better than any of the other battalion organizations. So he started telling the other groups in the battalion, hey, I want you to go over there, make sure that thing is, quote, natorized. You need to naturize that, right? And I had no idea back then. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. But I was just doing my thing, right? And, the military does not recognize innovators very well. It's just like, just do your job. Here's your, it just doesn't do very well at that, in my view. At least it didn't work that way for me. And so, but I did my time in the military. I loved my time in uniform. I left the military and I went to work for the Boeing company. And I was the chief of the supply chain for the F-18 post-production support program, about a $1.4 billion contract, and which had a lot of challenges. And I saw those both internal Boeing, but then also in the relationship with U.S. Navy. And I started doing the same thing. I just started understanding what are the barriers what are the things that are causing complexity? What are the barriers that help us resolve? How do we get it to where our teams works better together and services the client better? And almost immediately, it took about a year, but almost immediately things began turning around. And what I also saw was there's some dysfunction in the nature of the contract between us. And that was about to be renewed. And so I was able to help be influential in improving the relationship between Boeing and the Navy and the structure of the contract. We won a big contract after that. And my boss, who is a VP, he got a lot of money. I didn't. And I came into it and I was like, how do I get to be part of this? And he goes, oh, no, Nate, you're just a manager. No, you got to have P&L. You're going to have to go do something entrepreneurial if you want that, right? And I heard those words and I was like, oh. So then 2 weeks later, I came in for an interview with him. He wanted to talk to me every 2 weeks. And I came in and I said, this is going to be a very different area than you think. And he goes, what? I said, I'm giving you my letter of resignation. I'm actually leaving to go do something entrepreneurial. And that's when I took off and began building POV with Richard. Yeah. I was like, and Richard and I have worked together, and then I went off and did my own thing for a while, and we've come back together with some clients, and it's actually just been a beautiful journey. I've worked with, like right now, I have different things where I consult with people on helping them to just simplify the complexity in their organization. There are different solutions that work well for different groups. And I've been blessed to be able to work with some of those things. And I tell you, once I learned you're going to get to come do that with Window Book and Jeff Peoples again, I was like, I'm all in. Heck yes, I'm all in. So, and I'm really gratified to be able to, I'm getting to know the struggles of an MSP, and it's been really beautiful.
Yeah. And from what I've been seeing is it's like, oh, I don't want you to take away this tool from me. It's like, it's really going to solve a lot of time. It's going to save them money because, these assessments can be large. And it's just, where do you want to put your time? Do you want to put it in documenting undocumented mail pieces, or do you want to be delivering a better value for your client? So
go win.
Exciting
have
stuff.
Something that you can just pass on. You can hire somebody who comes in and is basically right out of college and you train them. Okay, here's the settings. Here's how you use the tool set. just make sure that we avoid these kind of things. And I think you can win. You can have seamless success.
Yes. Well, thank you, Nate, for your time. I am sure that our clients are going to be getting a lot of value out of your making the complex simple and making seamless more successful.
Thank you very much. I very much look forward to continue working on it.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Seamless Success. Start elevating your strategies as a mailer and make a big impact on this continuously evolving industry. Like what you just heard? Want to get more of it? Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave a rating at podcast.windowbook.com. See you on the next episode.